And hopefully no one shows up in the waiting room because I'm not very good at checking the waiting room or seeing that. So that was my bad of even having a waiting room when I did the link. So sorry, guys. But it's been officially 5 minutes from when I posted this. So let's do this thing. Okay. Mhm. All right. So today, as discussed in the lecture that I posted, okay, we're going to talk about some writing examples, AI issues, um, and I don't think anybody will ask any questions, but if anybody asks any questions about their work, so I will look at that. Nobody sent me their first draft. It's kind of bummed about that. Let me recheck just to make sure that I didn't miss somebody's, but yeah, nobody sent me their rough draft or their first draft for me to go over. I don't know if you thought that I would be too harsh. I would have changed your name. No one would have known as you. Usually, I like to do that to edit someone's paper live, and then that person who gets their paper edited live really benefits from it. You know. So yeah, okay. So we are, we're halfway through. We're halfway through. This is week 4 right here, and then we have week 5, 6, 7, 8. And guess what, y'all? It's going to be flying because next week I'm going over essay 2, and you have 2 weeks to write that paper. That's it. You have 2 weeks. I'm going to discuss it all next week. I'm going to go, and you got to start picking your film, doing your research, and then writing your paper. We had 4 weeks into essay 1, and now it's rapid fire, which means also uh, by the end of June, so July 1st, you need to have finished reading your independent novel. Okay. Because essay 3 is about your book. All right. So you need to have finished that because I mean, like, we're done July 8th. We're out of here. Okay. By the end of July 8th, well, I mean, not the end of it, but that week that is our final lecture, and then you submit essay 3. All right. So we got to get working. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So let's do this. Let's talk about so this week you are writing an essay, essay 1. And if you recall from the week 4 lecture, um, in week 4, I posted a sample essay right there, essay 1 example, um, in which, let's see, this is it right here. And if you watch the lecture 4, you know that I pretty much wrote it, most of it live with you. No, I guess I paused it and wrote some stuff. Okay. But this is exactly how your essay should flow. This is not a suggestion. This is like exactly how your essay should flow. All right. Um, we have an introduction. And in your introduction, we have introduction to your writer. Okay. You could have a quote, but it needs to be a short quote. All right, from your sources. Um, and then we get straight into the story. Look, notice in this paragraph, I do not summarize your short story for you. Okay. I don't summarize the short story at all. You should not be. I've read all of your short stories. Every single short story that you could have picked, that you could have chosen, I've read already. Okay. So like I do not need a summary. Your first paragraph should not be a summary. Okay. Kate Chopin was a writer who was mostly ignored during her life, but she later was recognized as her recognized for her feminist voice. That first sentence is important because it already introduces the feminist perspective that I'm going to be applying to her work later on. Okay, Chopin's works, which has often been condemned as shocking and immoral, now often praised for its subtle skill and its frank honesty. The reason why I use this quote is not just as a filler. Okay, condemned as shocking and immoral is because later on down here, sorry, my animals, down here, I talk about how she writes about how her character, uh, has an orgasm after hearing the news that her husband has died. Okay, I mean, like this is written in the late 1800s. Okay, this paragraph is about that. So that's shocking. I mean, I think that's shocking still in today's standards. This idea of writing a story about a woman having a spontaneous orgasm at the news of her husband's death. Okay, so again, this quote is not just a filler random quote. This quote was picked specifically to allude to the shocking stuff that we're going to be talking that I'd be writing about in this body paragraph here. Okay. Um, in her story, the story of an hour. All right. Her short story, The Story of an Hour, captures the feminist spirit that has been fighting to be heard for a century. The story's themes and symbols, such as the open window, that's important because that's what I talk about in my body paragraphs, conveys a deep existential message. That's important because I talk about existentialism in here. It's probably misunderstood by men, but completely felt by the women who read it then and possibly now. Thus, The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin is a feminist story that uses the symbol of the open window to address the existential crisis that many women experience. Okay, so which is why, like, I believe that you should always write your introductions after you've written your body paragraphs. So that way, you've written your body paragraphs and you know what you need to be hinting at in your introduction. The introduction is not a summary. Do not write a summary of the story. Okay. You want to hit the things that you are going to be discussing later on in your body paragraphs. Okay. All right. Then you have, so that's your introduction. Then your first body paragraph deals with the, in this case, it deals with the lens. Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour is a feminist story that challenges the social structures placed on the women in the late 1800s. Historical feminist perspective. I have a quote here from Snodgrass about the historical feminist perspective. After the main character, Louise, hears the news that her husband has allegedly perished in a train wreck, she locks herself in a room. Okay. And then we talk about the open window and what that deals with. All right. And so we have our literary lens, okay, historical feminism, and we have the symbol from the story, right? And I mean, this just goes along with my outline. It just follows my outline. Then the next paragraph is about the philosophy, existentialism. This is just about existentialism. And then I'm connecting existentialism to the story. All right. There we go. And then I have my conclusion, which is about something from this paper that relates to me, whether that is your short story, why I spoke to you, the critical lens, why you like that, or the philosophy. Okay, and that's your conclusion. All right. If your paper doesn't follow this order, then you're going to lose points. Okay, you're going to lose points. All right, and that's because I have a very specific outline for you. I have a very specific what I want. All right, because that helps reduce people's usage of AI. Okay, which is what I'm going to discuss next. If I just told you to write, loosey goosey essay, about the story and about whatever, well, then you could very easily just go into ChatGPT and write that stuff in. Okay. Um, and write an analytical essay about the short story, and then it will pop something out for you. All right. Um, but when I hold people to a very specific um, task outline to write about in terms of your essay, then they tend to have to not rely on Chat GPT. All right, and they do things more. Okay, so for example, okay, so let's say so last last year's paper for essay three, someone did The Hate You Give, the book and the short story. I'm sorry, they did the book and the movie. And so, if I went into Chat GPT and typed in, write a comparison contrast essay on The Hate You Give. Okay. This is what pops out. This is what pops out. This is, I just copy and pasted this from that. All right. You have You Give, a powerful story exploring racial injustice and identity. It exists in two distinct forms: the original novel by Angie Thomas and this film adaptation directed by this. Okay. And then it goes through all these different things that you could write about, okay, that you could discuss in your paper. All right. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 paragraphs. All right. So when I assigned this assignment, I had an outline just like the ones I had for essay one. And in it, pretty much, I told the students it's almost the same exact kind of assignment where you have to apply a philosophical interpretation, a literary lens interpretation. You had to talk about some symbolism, pretty much the same things you're discussing in essay one, but you had to do it at a greater extent with the book and the movie. And so some people, their papers followed exactly the outline that I had given them. Let's see if I have. Um, do I have an outline for essay three? Essay two, essay three adaptations. Right, 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 right. Oh, I guess I didn't necessarily require them to run out of time. All right. Anyways, so one paper that I received from this was a paper by Kennedy Jones, who's not a real person. I changed the name. Okay. And their paper that they turned in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14 paragraphs. Okay. And it strayed very much from the outline and the things I wanted them to discuss specifically. Okay. Because like in the essay three, I told them specifically what they were going to what they need to discuss, and you'll see this later on because I'm like it's pretty much the same thing. But yeah, now multiple paragraphs, apply critical lens. All right. Oh yeah. Then they had to have a whole discussion on what makes a good adaptation. All right. Which one did you like better and why? All right. These types of things. And the essay that was turned in does not talk about at all adaptation, what makes a good adaptation, and this does not talk about at all what she liked best about the book or the film, which one is shaped better. Okay. So I didn't follow that. And then if you notice this, the titles that you give is in italics and quotation marks. So when I look at a chat GPT, chat GPT does not follow inlay formatting. Notice this. These are in block paragraphs. These headers. And then all of the title is in quotation marks. So this person, they essentially a ChatGPT essay. They take away these, all right, and then they indented the paragraphs, all right, and then they're like, oh yeah, wait, titles of books. Oh yeah, they remember that they're in italics, but they forgot that you don't use quotation marks. So then they just did this for every single title. They just replaced every title. They made all the titles in italics without deleting the quotation marks. Dead giveaway. Okay. Oh yeah, and then they're like, oh yeah, wait. Oh yeah, it's supposed to be well space two. Okay, so we're gonna go to paragraph here, and we're going to make it double. And they forgot to put 0, 0 here, so then they made it double. But then you have this space in between every paragraph. Uh, just like here, you have the space in between every paragraph. All right, and they're like, oh yeah, I need a header here. Okay, so I gotta add a header to my fake paper. Okay. And so now you might be like, okay, well maybe it's not ChatGPT. I mean, okay. So then, not only is the fact that like this person's paper is um, actually too long from what the assignment that I gave, it did too much. All right. Also, where did I put it? Okay. The formatting's wrong. So the formatting's incorrect. 0, okay, good. Blank, blank. That's a problem. There's supposed to be 0 here and double here. Okay. But then language. The book and the movie share identical title and the same plot. However, both of them are widely recognized as showing the issues of race, identity, and justice. Okay. That's a compound, complex sentence. Such duality allows the audience to perceive through her relations with family, friends, and colleagues the consequences of systemic racism on the Black person. Duality, really? Okay. At Williamson Prep, she usually has to conceal her Afro-American identity to fit in with white students and avoid being stereotyped. While on the other side, Garden Heights is a place where she faces the community's demands for her to uphold the race as a symbol of pride and toughness. Okay. That's also a compound, complex sentence. Thomas shows Starr's life as an example of demonstrate how racial identity can be a very important factor in a way one comprehends the world and interacts with others, being a strong prism through which one looks at everyday situations. Okay, you might be asking, why am I reading this out loud? Why am I highlighting this? Well, because these sentences stood out to me, because it was a drastic different way in which Kennedy Jones, not their real name, would write. In their other regular assignments, this person only typed in simple sentences. Trevor felt as if he was an outsider at his school, period. He did not feel that he was able to fit with anyone because of their differences, period. Um, there was times when people made Trevor feel too white or too black for a group, period. According to him, even with so many different groups to choose from, I wasn't a natural constituent of any particular one. Okay. Their writing is very, very simple, okay, in all their assignments. Very, very simple. And so, well, then compare this to this, where we have much more complex sentence structure and heightened vocabulary that's used correctly. Um, so if you take that and then you also add in the point that there is no directly integrated quotes in the entire paper. Okay. And for the most part, it is rather grammatically error free. This screams AI. All right. It doesn't follow the outline that I assigned. It doesn't, it's not in correct MLA formatting. It uses characteristics that are typical of AI. It doesn't integrate quotes, doesn't use any quotes because AI doesn't actually directly quote. And you can try that. It doesn't actually use direct quotes. Um, and the vocabulary and sentence structure is much more elevated than their usual standard work. So all of this screams AI. Okay. The vocabulary, the sentence structure, the formatting issues, all this kind of stuff. All right. Because also, if you notice, um, when this person would write some of their own stuff, okay, at least here, the Born a Crime Outsider. See, look, this is the title of the book. The person doesn't know how to do it, but at least they didn't use italics. They just used quotation marks. Okay. Um, so again, there's inconsistencies. All right. I do want you to improve as a writer. Like that, like I'm not gonna like assume that if your essays are better than what you've been producing, um, that means that you are using AI. But if your writing improves to a degree that does not seem to be uh, typical, there should be improvement, yes. But when it goes from base level to this level, and there are all these other issues that are common with AI, which is not the usage of quotes, not correctly formatting the papers, not citing sources or citing resources correctly, all of that. All right. So I know I've spent a long time on this, but I will, if I suspect that it is AI, I will say this. I have no proof. Okay, I have no proof, but I don't believe this is correct. And here are all the wrong things that you've done. Okay, so please don't use AI. Do not do it. Don't um, get help that way. All right, because that will not assist you later on. Okay. All right. And so in terms of paragraphs, all right, from this week, I have some examples of some student work. I want to share. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of some of this stuff now that I've gone over it. Okay, that's Kennedy Jones. That's not good. Don't save. I don't need that. Okay, so here's a really good paragraph that Chuck Jones wrote. All right, and this does what I'm wanting you to do. In the article, A Study in Psychology by M.H. Hardaker, he discusses the plight of labor under capitalist conditions, noting how workers are often exploited and dehumanized. He finds that, now this is actually an error. Hey, Jack Jones, even this is not really your own name. If you catch this, I hope you catch it because I did not catch this error at first, but this is actually an error right here. After that, he finds that labor, there should be no comma after the word that, and there shouldn't be a capital letter of the word labor. All right. So here we go. Now listen, y'all, I'm going to tell you this. Just because I don't catch and mark an error in your submitted work doesn't mean that it's free to commit the same error in your essays. All right. Um, if I don't catch an error, then just mark yourself lucky that you didn't lose points for that one. All right. But that does not mean, though, that it's okay. All right. So, like in this case, if the same Chuck Jones just copy and paste this exact paragraph into their final paper and they don't change the fact that there's a comma after that and that the capital L should be a lowercase l, they're going to get an error. All right. So I'm human. I miss some things. I can't catch everything in the homework. All right, it is what it is. And at the same rate, sometimes an essay, when I grade your essays, you'll get away with committing some errors that I don't catch because I have 40 essays that I'm trying to grade. Or like this week 4, I had 70 assignments to grade, 3 assignments per person. Luckily, not everyone turned in all their work. Otherwise, I'd have 120 assignments that I had to grade. So there are going to be some errors that like slip through. It is what it is. But just because you committed error on essay 1 that I don't mark wrong because I missed it, does not mean that you are now allowed to make that error in essay 2 and essay 3. Okay, so errors I miss should be seen as a present for that one moment where you don't lose points. Okay. All right. She finds that labor is commiserated as being held in an unequal struggle with capital, but it has not yet occurred to the exponents of public feeling that their sympathetic philosophy may have neglected some of the prime factors of the problem. Quotation mark, Hardaker. Great. This quote highlights the unequal power dynamics between labor and capital, reflecting the hazardous and oppressive conditions faced by the mill workers in King's story. Okay, so now we have connecting that quote about Marxism and the criticism of labor to now the King story, and illustrating how workers are often reduced to mere expendable commodities in the relentless pursuit of profit. For example, in the story Graveyard Shift by Stephen King, Paul, the main character, works at an old textile mill and is persuaded to forego vacation time to clean the basement of the facility before an inspection. He and a group of coworkers go into the depths of the basement late at night after work and discover hordes of rats. And the story describes Hall had known it would be bad, but this was murder. For one thing, he had anticipated the smell, the polluted stink of the river mixed with the odor of decaying fabric, rotting masonry, and vegetable matter. Hey, if y'all ever come across a word that you feel is not the way we spell it these days, right? This is just extra. What you can always do is put a bracket and then put SIC. All right, and that means spelling in context, meaning this is how it was. SIC means this is how this person spelled it. Now, I would not take points off for that. I don't care. I did not. Um, I would assume that I never really taught that, but I just thought of that right now. Okay. This excerpt furthers Hardaker's idea of the conceived notion of workers being expendable, subjecting workers to dangerous conditions that, if any person of capital were to experience, would cause mass outrage. All right, that's great. Not in paragraphs with quotes. You always need to have some sort of analysis afterwards. All right. This is I like this paragraph because this is exactly the way that I would analyze this story. I chose this story because it serves very well at Marxist interpretation. You have these people who are workers who are being forced to work in inhumane situations, terrible conditions, and people end up losing their lives. But the people who run the mill, who make all the money, they don't care about the lives of the workers. So this analysis hit dead on with this topic. All right, that is good, and then it explains it well. All right. So this is the kind of paragraph that I was looking for, and this is what I want to see 3 times over in your body paragraphs. They should run like this. You should have some outside references to, and then connected to your primary sources. This is a secondary source, Hardaker, and this is your primary source, your short story, a writer, and so you need to make the connections. That's good. Okay. Now there was okay, here we go. Don Jackson's. Yes. This is something that I wanted to point out. All right. Okay. So here we have this paragraph. The character of Arnold Friend and Joyce Carol Oates is where are you going, where have you been? can be understood as a signifier of control and manipulation, and it can be considered the manifestation of the psychoanalytical concept of the uncanny. Applying Freud's theory of the uncanny will help you to decipher horror and the grotesque in Arnold Friend. Freud portrays the uncanny as both recognizable and unfamiliar, and at the same time frightening. Okay, listen. The uncanny. What is the uncanny? Right. We get that is like horror and grotesque, but this paragraph leaves us questioning more because okay, the uncanny. Well, so what? What does that have to do with anything? Freud is a psychoanalyst. He's a psychologist in our brain. Okay. And so the uncanny and the grotesque is this thing that we have been socialized to feel is bad and not good. Okay. It in and of itself is not actually bad or ungood. The grotesque is this thing that we've been told is not good. It's kind of like you have people who are phobias, homophobia, Islamophobia, um, xenophobia. Okay, like sometimes nationalism, Americans born, raised, yeah. Okay, if you grew up in a very nationalistic community, and that nationalistic community stresses the importance of being born all American, okay, and you are raised to believe that immigrants are bad for the country, the immigrants become the grotesque. They become this uncanny. And so now you live your life with this this anger, this fear, this frustration, all this repulsion towards immigrants. And that's called xenophobia. Okay. Now, immigrants, essentially speaking, are nothing more than humans who just move. That's like the history of civilization, like everyone has immigrated. All right. There's nothing innately actually wrong with an immigrant. Okay. But your brain has been raised and structured to believe in this grotesque. So generally, when Freud talks about the uncanny and the grotesque, and we do a psychoanalytical analysis of a story or film about what it makes the grotesque, okay, it's really a social criticism on society, on like this thing that we deem as bad, but that we actually shouldn't think it's bad. Like with Flannery O'Connor did this, not Flannery O'Connor, Harper Lee did this with Boo Radley. Boo Radley is the uncanny and grotesque because Boo Radley suffers from mental illness. And in the 1930s, people did not people did not respect or understand mental illness. People who had a mental illness were shunned and locked away or put away into like psychiatric wards. All right, they're like, ah! And so Boo Radley in that book is made into the grotesque. He's made into the uncanny because but by the in the book we realize that we should not feel that way towards him. He is not the grotesque. He's the one who saved um Scout and her brother and little Truman Capote, whichever his character's name was. Okay. And so it's supposed to make, it's more of a satire, it's more of a criticism on us. So I say all that for this person right here, this person is writing a paper about how Arnold is the grotesque, the uncanny. Then what is it that he actually represents? Okay, making someone into the grotesque uncanny isn't actually the theme or the statement. They are a symbol. They're made to look dangerous because they represent something that society thinks is dangerous, like freedom or autonomy, independence, women's empowerment. I mean, the term feminazi is to make make evil of those women who believe in their ability to make their own choices, or feel like, the women who feel like that they should be able to have equal pay and equal rights and control over their reproductive rights and stuff. And so, as a way to try to make them seem, to make it to reinforce this idea that that women shouldn't have all this power, we call them feminazis, okay? And so that we make them grotesque. Ugh, those women who probably have hairy armpits. Ugh, isn't that disgusting? Ah! And so if you make them grotesque, then you also are making their ideas grotesque, which then makes it easier for people to reject their ideas. When in fact, it's all a way to manipulate us from listening to their ideas. So I say all that because here in this essay, she's talking about, or he, John Jackson, is talking about the uncanny, but the conversation is not going as far as it needs to. If Arnold Friend is the grotesque or the uncanny, then what does he represent that society has deemed not good? Okay. And so there are, if you are talking about a topic, you do need to make sure, and this is the point of the research, you need to make sure that you're talking about it correctly. All right. If you are going to be analyzing something through a certain perspective, you need to have done enough research to kind of like understand it. All right. So that's my big issue with this one is that this is, and I think that she's correct. That the psychoanalytical concept of the uncanny totally applies to Arnold Friend. I was he to one degree he is personified as a devil, as this like evil thing. But I wrote to one student about how you can interpret him as he's actually not a devil, and like to one degree you can interpret it as he's an evil person who represents like the immorality and violence of men, and how he takes this girl away to presumably rape and murder her at the end of the story. But you could also interpret it as in the author is making him seem dangerous because actually he represents is the idea of independence and autonomy and self governance, and that like Connie is very scared to do that, and so it's really a criticism on how our society makes women afraid to be independent, to be again women's rights and um, uh, autonomy, all those kind of things. And so he is the uncanny, he is the grotesque, but it is critiquing how society makes women who are independent seem gross and that's evil, or that's not good, or that's not the way real women should be. Women should be soft and all this kind of stuff, okay, and submissive, right? So this person, while she's almost there, Don Jackson's almost there, they need to go to the next step to really talk about, if you're going to be talking about the uncanny, what it really means. Okay, so that's something that I would comment to this person. And Here, using a colon to introduce a quote is fine, but the problem here is Wags has already been stated, so don't need Wags there, and you don't ever have a comma in the parenthetical citation, so that's wrong. So that would be two errors off. If this person turned in this paper, this is not actually a rough draft. This is just the body paragraphs. Um, that would be 10 points off already. I mean, last name in the parenthetical citation when it shouldn't be there, and a comma. Two errors. Not good. Okay. All right. And then we have here, oh, okay. All right. So, you know, got to make sure that we do this correctly. All right. And paragraphs, another problem here is that we have the space in between paragraphs. That's not good. So we got to go to paragraph, select all, go to paragraph. Oh my God, what is happening here? Paragraph. See, that's empty. It needs to have a zero. It needs to be zero, zero, double. Boom. Okay. Takes it away. Okay. All right. I think that's all I'm gonna discuss today. I think this is probably going on for a while. My lecture, I don't know how long this is, but I've covered what I'm looking for. I covered my example, talked about don't use AI. I reviewed some ways to um, errors not to make. I wanted to re-emphasize sticking to the outline that I gave you. If your paper doesn't really flow that way, or talk about those things. Now, I mean, again, listen. If your first body paragraph is talking about the philosophy, then the second body paragraph is talking about the lens, and then the third body paragraph is talking about the symbol. Okay, if I can tell all those things are there, then I will be okay. All right, but like if you're just talking about stuff that's like not at all what I put in there. And I only need you to have 5 paragraphs, but you have 10 paragraphs and they're kind of short and they scream AI, then nope, not cool. All right. I'm really, looking for this very rigid, specific way that I want you to do things because that means that you're actually following directions. And really, a lot of this is about following directions because college. Um, when you graduate from college, what you're telling your future employees is not what you learned, but what you're able to do, which is follow directions. If you can humble yourself and listen to your instructors and do well enough in their classes to make A's and B's, and you make it through your degree program and you graduate, and there are people who are professors and instructors who are willing to be a a reference for you, then that tells future employers that you will listen to them. Most people who are hiring college graduates, they're not looking. They don't really care what you majored in. I mean, not really. They feel that if you've graduated college in general, then you have good employability. I mean, that's like really what it is. Um, my wife majored in psychology. She has a master's in community organizing, but now she's a marketing director because this company was like, "Oh, you graduated from Vanderbilt? Cool. You're smart enough. You'll figure it out." Okay. 90% of all jobs require on-the-job training. It is what it is. I have a buddy who he graduated with a master's degree in theatrical arts, and he's a salesman for some company in North Carolina. Like he makes more money than I do as a teacher. All right. So you know, it's really about following directions. And so I've given you very specific directions, and I'm really looking for that. I don't want you to write something that's just like you trying to impress me with your diction and your style. Yet it's completely off base. That's not impressive. Impressive to me is following the directions, the way it's been laid out for you, okay, and arguing within those guidelines. All right. So, all right, cool. If you have any questions after watching this, then email me, and I will. If you want me to look over some of your work, if I have time, I will do it. Um, I know this is an online class, and your work is always due at the end of Sunday, but I'm not always available on Saturdays and Sundays to immediately get back to you like I am during the week because during the week, I mean, I'm home, I'm with my kids, yes, but my wife is working. There's more downtime. But like Saturday and Sunday, she's off work, so she wants to have family time, and we're doing stuff. So like Saturdays are usually planned. So if you send me urgent questions on Saturdays and Sundays, you probably won't get a response until later in the evening because it's just busy family time. Okay, so sorry, but if you send me questions before then, you'll get a faster response. All right. I can't guarantee that I'll look over your entire essay, but I'll look at chunks of it if I have time and send you some feedback. And yeah, anyways, I'm done. All right. If you have any questions, let me know, y'all. Take it easy. Bye bye.